In today's video, we will be discussing the importance of a daily practice. And I'll be talking about this in terms of meditation, Tai Chi, Qigong, even martial arts. But we could also extend this to things like gardening every day or a daily weightlifting type routine where you're working on developing skill. Any practice, anything that you really get into on a daily basis. So in the beginning, with something like Tai Chi, often it can be very difficult to do it every day. It can be difficult to practice. And so in the start, it requires discipline. And this is typically the beginning of developing any habit or any practice, is we tap into discipline to make ourselves do it. And why do we need to make ourselves do it? That's because it's new, right? So there isn't a habit that's been developed yet. It's not yet easy to do. So we tap into discipline, and this allows us to get started. Now, there's various research you'll see. Some people say 47 days to develop a new habit. Some people say 3 months or 90 days. In a lot of the Chinese martial arts, they have 100-day this, 100-day that, 100-day iron palm, 100-day iron shirt, all these different skills. And the reason for the 100 days is it's enough to develop a habit. So once we've progressed beyond the stage of discipline, then we get to the habit. And at this stage, the practice is easy to do. It no longer requires discipline to start the practice. And why is this important? Well, one of the benefits of a daily practice of any kind is that it gives you a point of reference, a still point, around which various tumultuous events in your life will move. So instead of identifying with the moving parts, with the emotional events, or could be world events, political events, whatever it is that might wrap up your mind, pick up your emotions and start carrying you away, instead we have this still point, and all of those moving parts can be seen as moving in reference to the still point of the practice. Now, if we have not developed the practice beyond the point of discipline to the point of it being a habit, then when things are tough, when we undergo some type of emotional event, then the practice won't be there to carry us. The critical mass, the momentum of the practice cannot carry us because it still requires a fair bit of discipline. Now, this discipline, it may not be enough to carry us through the resistance of the practice that's still new or that we haven't developed a habit towards, in conjunction with the tension of the emotional event, right, or the tough event. So if we have developed beyond the point of discipline and now the practice is a habit, then when we undergo turmoil, the practice will carry us through as a habit. If you've developed a practice over decades of exercising on a daily basis, maybe it's going for a long walk in the woods like this every morning, or maybe it's gardening every day, whatever it might be, then what we can do is that habit will carry us through the turmoil. Now, once we've reached this stage where it is habit and the discipline has been taken care of and the habit of the practice has taken over, then when we are, let's say something like Tai Chi, okay, we run through a sequence of movements, a sequence of postures that help to open the body and help us with our balance and with release And all these qualities that we really like to work on in Tai Chi, releasing into various states, releasing to move from step to step, and learning how to use different mechanisms to move the body and move beyond the body, to work with the mind, work with the emotions, and really settle the entire body. Because we have that as a daily still point, a daily reference point, what we'll start to notice is how those tumultuous events in life affect the balance, affect our ability to release, how they might corrupt our posture on a physical level, on an energetic and emotional level, on a mental level as well. And we will start to notice these constrictions that form in relation to these outside events. And hopefully we will be able to, through the practice, move those stagnations from the body, from the energetic and emotional landscape, and from the mindscape as well. So this is a key thing. Let's say you do go through some event that causes these constrictions inside, and you can notice, hey, I'm doing this same practice that I did yesterday, and yesterday when I did this practice in the morning, my balance was really good. I was able to release with ease. My mind was calm. I was relaxed. I was connected. Everything was flowing really well. And depending on what stage of the training you're at, you will be picking up on different sensations, right? Then you have some event that takes place later that day, and it feels like it causes a bunch of havoc. The next day, you get to go through the same practice and go, oh my God, my balance, it has dissolved. I can't balance as well today. I'm not as relaxed today. The flow is off today. Everything feels staggered and stagnated. You notice the tension, say in your chest. You notice how a part of your body might collapse collapse in on itself, protecting itself, right? Or perhaps that part of the body is dissolved of tensegrity. Maybe it's become weak, okay? Maybe you notice, oh, going through, my mind's wandering intensely today. And maybe there's a specific event that your mind keeps wandering to. And maybe that pulls all the tissue in the body in a different direction, corrupting your balance, making it more difficult to engage with your reference point. But you have your reference point of your practice. And you can see how yesterday things were one way, and today things are another. And over time, you will develop a deep understanding that tomorrow things can be different. And you will really start to develop a deep understanding and a deep appreciation of your practice and of how it can present itself as this still point around which the tumultuous nature of life can move. So this I will throw on YouTube, and for the reference library online, for the online program, we'll continue on here with a few more steps to this process. Alrighty, hope this was helpful. Hope you find something you can do every day, and hope you enjoyed a little bit of my walk in the woods here. Alrighty, thank you. Practice. Bye. So the next stage, following the practice, the daily routine becoming a habit, right? Through time, we will start to develop an appreciation of that habit, an appreciation of the practice, as we start to notice its effects and influence on our life. And at this point, it moves beyond habit and becomes something that we desire to do. There's a longing to do it. You need to do it. And this can be positive, very positive, but there is a double-edged sword here to be aware of, and that is the addictive nature of this. Okay, so there's I had a student at one point who was a psychologist for his whole career, and he had described this as the tyranny of one's virtues. And so an example would be someone who needs to go for a 90-minute run every morning. And let's say they go on vacation with their families and with their family, and they don't get a chance to go on that run for a couple of days. And then they become very ornery, quite angry, quite abrupt, and make that what was supposed to be a nice vacation a bit of a hell for everyone they went with. So this is one thing to be aware of, is when the habit of the practice evolves into an addiction, essentially. And in the absence of that practice, you become very unpleasant. So we want to be aware of this, okay? And there is a fine line, well, maybe not so fine, I guess it depends on who you are, between that addiction to the practice and developing a very healthy respect for yourself. When you know the benefits that the practice provide you, the benefits that the practice provide people you encounter in the world, if you're a teacher, the benefits that that practice might provide your students, then you start to give it a different type of importance. And it becomes, at that point, not quite an addictive quality, but it's something that's done choicefully. Okay, so we want to make sure that this is always a choice. So at this stage of development in our daily practice, where we've reached this joy, this excitement, this positive engagement with the practice, then what we can begin to do is approach it from a perspective of reverence. So we have a deep respect for the practice, what it offers us as individuals, what it offers those we encounter, and how that spirals out from there to the rest of the people, and to the rest of everyone and everything that everyone touches in a positive way, like a butterfly effect. So there's a big difference between having an addiction to a practice, to some daily routine, and having a deep respect, appreciation, and reverence for it. And this isn't even getting into the deeply spiritual side of things, but just at a more mundane level. We really want to take our time and explore this side of things. Moving through the positive edge of that sword, we have the negative edge, which could be the development of addictive tendencies. But the positive side, and very positive, is when you begin to love the practice that you're doing. You can't wait to do it. Every day, you cannot wait to run out to the park at sunrise and practice your Qigong, or practice your meditation, or practice your Tai Chi, or do your exercise, whatever it is. There's so much joy involved in it. And that joy is based upon not just the activity, but a deep understanding of how positively it affects you, how positively it affects yourself, those around you, and how that positivity spirals outwards further and further. So we do want to keep this in mind. We want to develop the practice initially. It starts with discipline, then it becomes habit, then it becomes joy. This joy at the practice, this joy around the practice. And so starting off in the beginning, make it something that you can manage so that it doesn't take a lot of discipline, right? So maybe you don't start with 3 hours of practice in the morning. Maybe you start with 5 minutes of practice in the morning. Okay, you do that activity 5 minutes. Okay, when that feels easy, let's say you're doing your standing practice, whether it's Qigong or for Tai Chi, or for more meditative purposes, maybe it's a seated practice. You start with 5 minutes. Then after 3-4 weeks, maybe you do 10 minutes and that starts to stabilize and feel okay. Then maybe we move on to 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. And over time, you develop a practice. It still requires some discipline in the beginning, but you don't make it too much too fast, because we don't want to burn out that process. We want to move from discipline to habit, and from habit to love and joy for the practice. And then the practice has so much positivity that's embedded into it that you just practice. And as soon as you have any of these events that may be occurring, so there becomes this point where there's so much positivity in the practice that one day you practice, it's amazing, you love it, it feels one way, and that afternoon something occurs in life and creates these potential causes for all these negative habits to begin occurring. Negative thought patterns, negative energetic and emotional patterns, negative postural shifts that over time, if just left there, will create injury, will create some really not so good patterns and not so good habits. But the next day we hit our practice, and at that point, the practice triggers this cascade of positivity, this cascade of release, this cascade of events that allows us to very quickly and efficiently clear out the potential negative habits that could have developed in mind, in energy and emotion, and in body. And we can move through it with ease. So this is how we want to think about developing the practice when we start. Okay, move through these phases. It might take 3 months to get through the discipline phase. It might take another 3 months of being in the phase of habit. It might take another 3 months to really settle into this phase of positivity. Now, one last thing to be aware of here when we have reached this phase of loving the practice. Okay, we've eradicated the potential negative side effects of it being an addiction, and it's this love and joy of the practice. We want to be aware of what might happen if we suddenly lose that joy, that love. Do we just stop practicing? Oh, well, I'm not feeling it today. I just don't feel that excitement to get out there and do this thing that I usually love. And so we want to start looking at why that might be. Okay, what are the changes, those moving parts that have occurred that might be influencing that? And at that point, we will then rely on the habit once again. So we will, some people could see this as positive, that you downgrade from love and joy of the practice and excitement back to habit, because that's a more neutral place to be. Okay, so that can be positive in that you just practice. That's just what you do. Okay, now typically people will practice more and have a lot more fun if they love the practice, and you can get a lot more out of it if you're really enjoying it. But if that joy has dissolved, then you can rely on the habit once again and allow the habit to carry you through every day. All right, and you might even require discipline again. That's always a thing that can happen. It may require discipline. So things may progress from love and joy of the practice, excitement, where you can't wait to do it, and move back down to habit, and it may even require discipline again. But having gone through those stages already, you won't be unfamiliar with them. And because you are familiar with them, it won't be foreign, and you can engage with it. And you can find that quite quickly the positivity of the practice, that habit of the positivity will carry through. The practice at that point, once we hit that very positive stage, becomes anchored. So the positivity and the practice become anchored together. They become one thing. So you do the practice and it triggers all that joy, all that excitement and love and positivity. So if things do drop down and hit habit, keep practicing. If they do drop down and hit discipline, keep practicing. Now that doesn't mean that the practice has to stay the same. You might lose that love, that joy, that excitement because something needs to change. Maybe there is an element of your practice that is in need of growth. And so it's at points like this, these plateaus, where it's good to seek out a teacher. Find a good teacher. Maybe you schedule some one-on-one time, or maybe if you're fortunate, they have a workshop going on near you, or they have some classes, or they're available for a chat online, and they can help you find some new element of your practice that has perhaps been neglected. So in relation to your practice, you start journaling and you start exploring what are things that you can do to bring back that joy in the practice and keep things progressing in that manner that evokes excitement, love, and joy for the practice. And that will then expand out from you to everyone that you interact with. Alrighty, hope this was helpful, and enjoy your practice. Have fun. Bye.